And he pulls this 6-card 21 out of his ass.
No
and
kidding.
Woomph. That was a $100,000 swing on the turn of one card. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
He did get a 21 off
He
cards?
He got a 21, and I had, 18s, 19s, and 20s, five of them, and he just went, woof.
And you lost $50,000 on that.
50 grand, yeah.
How'd that feel?
That was very stressful. So I stopped playing for that weekend. I was just like, that's it. I'm done.
Welcome to the Reinvention podcast. I'm Aaron Anderson, and I'm back in Hawaii with my friend Tony Pisculli.
Thanks for having me back, Aaron.
You're welcome back at your house.
Yes.
I want to talk to you again because I forgot to ask about one of the more fascinating aspects of your life. Not the most fascinating, but one of them, which was you were a professional gambler for a while.
I was, yeah.
Multiple times.
Twice, yeah.
And the first time you did it, you started out as a card counter.
Card counter, playing blackjack.
How did that start?
I actually ran into a book when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I think, on card counting. And I was like, oh my God, that's the thing for me. I've got to learn how to do this. But as a 7th or 8th grader, I had no resources, right?
Probably
not to mention I couldn't get into a casino. So, but it kind of stuck with me. And then at Microsoft, I met a guy who was on the Princeton team. I think he was on the Princeton team. Okay. He was at Princeton. He was either around the team or on the team, and he wanted to start up a team again.
And this was one of the teams that sort of, there are articles about these people, there's movies about these people where they broke the rules open.
Yeah. They changed the rules. They changed the style of play based on the success of this team. Yeah.
Okay. And normally at a casino, the casino has some type of advantage. Normally.
Yes.
They have an advantage over the players.
Yeah.
But counting cards gives the players an advantage.
Yes.
And how does that work?
It works because some cards are better for players than others. Okay. And those cards are aces and tens.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you've got, and nines, if you've got an abundance of aces in the deck, you are more likely to get a blackjack, and blackjack pays 3-2.
Okay.
And that's a massive advantage. And if you've got an abundance of tens in the deck, the dealer who must play a fixed strategy is more likely to go bust. And that's an advantage.
If you have tens in the deck, the dealer is more likely to go bust.
Yeah.
So you don't consider this gambling. You consider this was a strategic investment.
We call it advantage play.
So you knew going in that if you did this right, and this is the big if, right?
Yeah. If
you do this right, you and your team would have a statistical advantage over the house.
Yeah. But you can hide a lot of nuance in that if you do it right.
Okay. Okay. The basic theory is that there are some cards in the deck that are more valuable to the player.
Yeah.
And you just need to know when those are more likely to come out.
And there are some cards that are less valuable to the player. Okay. Because the dealer has this fixed strategy, he must hit 16, must stand 17. Small cards are bad for the player because if he hits that 16 and draws a 5, he's going to get 21, and you're going to be stuck there with your 18 just going,
Right.
Yeah. So what we do is we divide the deck up into 3 categories of cards. We have 9, 10s, and aces are good cards, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are bad cards, and 7, 8s, and 9s are neutral cards.
Okay.
And you just count them as they come through, and you just maintain a running count of how many of which you have. If you see an ace, that's +1. Actually, it's -1 because it's now out of the deck.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I say tens, I'm including jacks, queens, and kings.
So wait, let me go back. So there's how many decks of cards are in a shoe? Is it called a shoe?
Yeah, a shoe.
How many?
It depends on the casino. Probably 6 or 8.
And do they mix all of those up together?
Yeah.
And you're counting?
Yeah.
+1, -1?
Yeah.
And do you start with like 0?
Start at 0 because you don't know what the composition of the deck is, and actually, you do. You know that the full complement of cards in there, but some of them are behind the cut card, and you're never going to see.
Okay.
So you assume 0 unless you have some other prior information from somewhere else.
Okay.
And then as good cards come out, that is bad for you because more bad cards are left and less good cards are left.
Okay.
So when we see an ace, king, queen, jack, or 10, we say that's -1. When we see a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, that's a bad card that's come out of the deck, so that's good for us, so that's +1.
So wait, let me see if I got this right. So you're at the table. You got you ante up.
Yep.
You get your cards.
Yep.
And you look at all the other cards and have to count 1, 2, 3, 1, +1, -1. Just keep a number in your head.
Yeah, but you can't move your lips and you can't do this because the casinos hate card counters and they will throw you out.
Right. So, but you're doing this without being okay. Wait, you're keeping a running count in your head.
Yeah.
And then how do you get that advantage? Do you increase your bet at a certain point?
Yes.
Or, okay.
So you have that running count, but then you have to do another step, which is you have to do some division, because what you really want is the count proportional to the number of decks remaining. You want to know if there are 6 decks left and your running count is 6, that means a true count of 1. Yeah, 6 divided by 6.
Yeah. There's division involved, which means I wouldn't. So in addition to not being able to do this,
you could do it. I can teach you to do this in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. But if that running count is 12, then, if you have 6 decks left, that's a true count of 2. If you have 2 decks left, that's a true count of 24. 24 and 24 is an insane. I've never seen it in real life.
Okay.
But if you had that, you'd be just like, oh my goodness, bet everything I have.
Okay.
It roughly corresponds to about a 0.5% advantage per +1 true count.
Okay.
So it'd be a 12% advantage at 24 true count.
So if you had something like that, you'd be like, I'm just going to increase my bet as much as possible. Yeah. Because I'm more likely to win in this hand, and therefore I'm more likely to win. The more I put in, the more I get back out.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to keep this running total, and then there must be. Is there a unit for how much you bet?
There is, yeah, and that's a source of a lot of strategy variation as well. So you have to bet a certain table minimum.
Right.
Like a typical table at Vegas is $5 to 500. That's a 100x variance. If you sit down at a table like that and bet $5 and the next hand bet $500, you are also going to attract
They're going to know that you're a card counter because of the way you're betting.
Yeah.
But you have a unit. So the unit at the table, so let's say it's $100. You will bet the minimum just to stay in the game. Mm-hmm. And then you will only increase your bet once the count is positive, once is in your favor.
Yeah.
Is that the way it works?
That's the idea. Yeah.
But you don't necessarily go all up and all down, because then the casino will notice that you're betting like a card counter.
Right. Yeah.
And all card counters are going to bet like low, all in, and then they win.
Not all in. All in is not a thing.
Yeah, but I mean a lot.
So you want to bet proportional to your advantage. We would do a thing where it was bet our unit times the true count. Okay, so we're on a $5 to $500 table, and our unit is 25.
Okay.
So we're going to bet 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, or 10 maybe, and then we get a true count of 1. Our bet goes up to 25, and our true count goes to 2. We bet 50.
Okay.
True count goes to 3. We bet 75. We bet our unit 25 times our true count.
So you just have to follow the formula.
Yeah.
And you know that the formula is statistically going to give you advantage but not per hand, over the long run, right?
Yeah, per hand, it's statistical advantage per hand, but over the long run it pays off. Yeah,
right.
You hope.
Yeah. And did it?
Yeah, it did.
But it wasn't just you.
No, it was a team.
It was a team. So everybody puts in money to be part of this team?
Yeah. Teams are a massive advantage because you get into the long run much, much faster, and you sort of distribute your statistical variance over a number of people. Yeah.
But you said the casinos don't dig this.
They love the idea of it because a lot more people think they can count cards than actually can.
Oh.
It's a skill that is theoretically very straightforward and very easy, and in practice quite a bit harder.
Now, you ended up hiring a girlfriend because so it isn't what it sounds like, because the dealer's going to ask you what you do. And if they find out you work at Microsoft, they're going to automatically assume that you know some math.
Yeah.
They're going to pay more attention to the way you're betting.
Yeah.
So you had to have
And also, if you're sitting at the table by yourself, you look like you're not having fun.
Okay.
The goal was to look like you're having fun. If you have a woman with you, you're automatically look like you're having more fun. But also, she can field questions because she's not playing.
Okay.
So the dealer says, "Hey, what have you guys been up to while you're in Vegas?" And you're going +1, -1, -2, -3, and she's going, "Oh, we just went shopping. It was amazing, and then we're going to see this show tonight." And you're like, "That's right, yeah."
Okay.
And you just throw in just enough interjections to keep.
It's her job to keep the conversation going, so you can focus on your thing.
She's screening, yeah. Now and we call these people. There's a technical term. It's a very technical term, and this is a term from 30 years ago. We call them bimbos. Because the idea...
It's a term from 30 years ago. We're not in trouble for this.
Because the idea was that they didn't want to display any great insight into the game. Some of them were, a lot of these women worked at Microsoft. They were brilliant women, yeah.
But the role is...
to play a bimbo.
So it looks like somebody who's just there with a guy who's playing and they just want to hang out.
Exactly. We had female players also, and they would bring along a male bimbo.
A male bimbo?
Cuts both ways.
That's great. But the role is to play somebody who's not all that smart, but interesting and vivacious, to sort of distract.
Yeah. They don't have to be not smart, but they have to be not particularly interested in the game.
Okay.
That's the key. If they're watching you play and going, "Oh my gosh, honey, a bunch of aces just come out." that defeats the purpose, right?
So is this stressful? This sounds stressful.
It's incredibly stressful. It depends on what stakes you're playing, obviously. So at low stakes, it's just kind of fun. It's like, oh, we're doing some spy shit. It's like, we're beating the system. But we got up into some serious stakes at one point, and it's enormously stressful.
So, but you're playing high stakes because you know you're going to get an advantage. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out. So you're playing high stakes tables?
Yeah.
Like how high stakes?
When I left the team, we had gotten up to the point where I would wire about $200,000 to the casino, and then I would play. My minimum bet would be $2,000.
Holy shit!
That's
the minimum unit, $2,000.
Yeah. My unit was $2,000. I would start with one $2,000 hand. And as the count increased, I would spread to 2 hands and bet up to $10,000 a hand. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
So this is a little stressful because you got a lot of and this is your money.
It's the team's money.
But I mean, so it's your.
But you feel just as bad losing the team's money as your own money.
I would imagine you feel a little bit worse, actually.
Yeah.
So you're betting $200,000 stake.
Yeah.
So that makes you a high roller.
Yeah. So that's fun story number one. As soon as you start, wiring serious advanced cash, the casino perks up and they go, oh, we've got a whale on the line. Actually, that's not a whale. Whales are millions, but a serious player. And they start to court you, and they start sending you gifts, and they offer you fight tickets.
Ski vacations,
yeah. A friend of mine used to go on deep sea fishing trips all the time.
Funded by the casino.
Yeah.
The casino that he was robbing.
Yeah. Not robbing is,
such a strong word.
Also a criminal term. Yeah.
Oh, so card counting isn't illegal.
It's completely legal.
But the casino can ban you.
They can trespass you, and that is also completely legal.
So if they catch you counting cards, they can say you can't come back.
Yeah.
But if you're on a team, then you're getting caught is going to be more spread out.
Yes. Although you have to be careful associating with your teammates in the casino, because if they, clock you talking to someone and they decide you're no good, then they pay extra attention to your teammates. So we would do all kinds of cloak and dagger stuff, have signals, and meet each other.
And for real?
Arrange rendezvous. Yeah.
So just away from the casino or in the casino?
In the casino, we didn't use these much. There's a strategy called the big player strategy, where you have counters playing very, very low stakes, and they're just keeping track of the deck, and they indicate with the way they structure their chips or their chip stacks that
now's the time for the big guy.
Very good. So the big guy just comes over and acts all drunk. He doesn't have to keep track. He just has to bet.
Really?
So you don't need this bimbo strategy, because he can be his own bimbo.
Oh, gotcha.
He can just come in and just be like, woo, bam,
When the count is good.
Yeah. So we didn't do that on our team.
Oh, that's interesting. Talk me through like a stress. Do you remember any of these hands?
Yeah, I remember one in great detail.
Okay.
This was a hand where the count was through the roof.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was, but it was very, very high.
Was this a high stakes table?
This was a high stakes table. Oh, another advantage of playing a high stakes table is they start brushing off all the other people who want to sit at your table.
Oh, okay.
Which is great, which means, because there's nothing more frustrating than watching the count creep up really, really high,
and then somebody
a bunch
else get
of
your
$5 players sit down and suck up all your aces.
Okay.
Yeah. Eventually start playing high enough stakes, and someone tries to join the table, and you just you look at the dealer and go no, and they hush him out of there. Yeah. So I was playing this hand, and I had 2 stacks of 10,000 out. I had $20,000 wagered on this
hand.
Yeah.
$20,000 on this hand.
Two hands.
Okay.
And then the first hand, I had an opportunity to split. I had a pair of 8s, I think, or something. So I split that.
So 3
and get a 3 on one, so I double down, and I think the other one was a 10, and then I forget what it was. I forget what it was on the other hand, but basically, by the time it was the dealer's turn, I had $50,000 out there on 5 hands with various splits and doubles.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was okay because the count was through the roof.
Okay,
and the dealer had a 6 showing, which is the worst possible card for the dealer and the best possible card for the player. And he flips over his whole card, and it's a 5. And that's bad, because now if a 10 comes out, and I know there's more of them because the count's high, he's going to hit 21. But it's like a 2. It's like, oh, that's good. Now the 10 is going to bust him. But then it's a 3. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then it's a 4. And then it's a whatever. And he pulls this 6-card 21 out of his ass.
No kidding.
Woomph. That was $100,000 swing on a turn of 1 card. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
He did get a 21 out of 6 cards?
He got a 21, and I had, 18s, 19s, and 20s, 5 of them, and he just went woof.
And you lost $50,000 on that.
50 grand, yeah.
How'd that feel?
That was very stressful. So I stopped playing for that weekend. I'm just like, that's it. I'm done. My heart can't take it.
Oh, yeah. So as this is going on, I mean, so every card that's turning, are you just like, no, come on, baby?
Well, usually you don't get into that. So that was an extreme situation, which is why it sticks in my mind.
Right.
When the count gets that high, normally it's just exciting. and normally you win.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but I forget what the count was at the time. Say it was 8 or 10, so even then I have like an 8 or 10% advantage. It's not that big.
Right.
Yeah? You think you'll win, but you
didn't. So over time, I'm imagining that you're going to be winning at some points and losing at some points.
Oh, yeah.
And winning.
Yeah.
So it's like a sine wave.
Yeah.
Right. But it's going hopefully slowly up.
It's trending up. It's trending up. Yeah.
But it means that at any given time you could absolutely be in the red.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did that hand put you in the red?
I don't remember. I mean, it put me in the red for that trip, for sure. Because we would start a separate bank every 6 months, we would call it, and you would put your money in for that bank. And then at the end of 6 months, we would total up our wins and losses and cash out.
Okay.
And I don't remember. Yeah, it's been a while.
How long did you do this card counting?
3-4 years, I think. Not that long.
And how much money do you think you pulled out of the bank in that period of time?
I don't know. I remember the first year really clearly because that was the most funnest when I got into it. And I was mostly in this for the fun and not for the money.
Okay.
If I had been in it for the money, it would have been better to just sit on my Microsoft stock and not play this game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I remember selling some stock to like participate in one of the banks. And that just was a disastrous financial decision. Yeah?
Right. Because the stock went up higher than your...
Much. It went up higher that quarter, I believe, or that bank. Yeah. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So for 3 or 4 years, and you made money. You think you're
so
sure
the first year I played, I would go 1 weekend a month. I went for 8 weekends in that year, and I made $50,000
that year.
And that was playing fairly low stakes. That was a $200 or $300 unit.
No, the $50,000, does that include the costs of getting to Vegas, staying in Vegas, all that sort of stuff?
There is no cost once you're a high roller of getting to Vegas, staying in Vegas, and being in Vegas because they paid for airfare, hotel, RFB, room, food, beverage, and then airfare is a separate thing, and they comped it all.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the coolest trip that they ever gave you for free?
Coolest trip they ever gave me was there was a casino host is the person who liaises with the players. There was a casino host based out of Tahoe who really wanted to meet me. She'd been handling all my stuff to Vegas. It's like, you got to come up to Tahoe sometime and play. I'm like, no. Why would I go to Tahoe? It's like the casinos are smaller. There's not as many tables. I like to table hop because when the count goes bad, you want to get a feeling and walk away. She said, yeah, well, come up to Tahoe and we'll make a whole weekend of it and we'll go snowmobiling. And it's like, okay, fine. I will come if you can guarantee me that you have 2 high stakes tables open all the time.
So you could gamble whenever you wanted.
Yeah. So I did that. And they met us at the airport in a limo and took us snowmobiling all one day. And then anytime I walked in the casino, there were 2 tables at this casino for me. No one else was allowed to play at them. So I could go back and forth.
Wow.
It was insane. And at the end of the night, they would go, are you going to play any more tonight or can we send these dealers home? It's like,
that's cool.
Let them go. I am done.
I'm done with you now.
It was ridiculous. I felt bad, but at the same time, it's like they want to do this for me. So, okay, fine.
Did you make money at that?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you bring your professional cover?
I brought someone with me. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. It was a fun weekend. Yeah.
And you did this for 3 or 4 years?
3 or 4 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you feel like you were yourself doing it or were you playing a character?
Oh, had to play a character because this was before theater for me. So I was still a very shy and nerdy guy. I mean, still in some ways a very shy and nerdy guy, but I covered a lot better with theater. Yeah. So back then I was just, if I didn't have someone with me to field questions, I would just be like, I'm playing a game
who was your
and
character?
It's hard. It was, we would buy, our team leader said, you got to buy asshole clothes. Yeah. You got to look like an asshole.
Okay.
Because only assholes throw that kind of money around at a card table. Right?
So what are asshole clothes?
In his opinion, it was Ralph Lauren.
Okay. Oh, I get you.
Yeah.
That
flashy
guy.
stuff. Very bright colors. I mean, normally I'm wearing a black t-shirt right now, but I had a fuchsia Ralph Lauren,
God.
button down with a turquoise logo on it. It was like, man, this drew attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see the shirt coming from a mile away. I actually love that shirt. And we bought fake Rolexes and, all that.
Just so you had flash.
Expensive sunglasses. Yeah.
And that was only one of the gambling stories.
Yeah. Many stories.
Give me another one.
So this was fun. So this was all pre 9/11.
Okay.
Right? Before we got to the point we were big enough that we would wire money to the casino, we had a small bankroll and it was in cash. And so we had to sort of swap it around to the different players, whoever was going to the casino that weekend.
Okay.
Had to So we would meet at Microsoft with a paper sack full of money, close the door to our office and count through these bills, like, yes, it's all there, and then go through the casino with like $40,000 to $60,000 strapped, or go through the airport security with $40,000 to $60,000 in cash strapped to our bodies.
Really? Why was it strapped to your bodies? Why wasn't it just like in a coat pocket?
Well, you don't want to fall out of a coat pocket.
Well, that's fair.
And you don't want it in your luggage because you don't want to go through X-ray.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they see that money, they can just take it away.
Really?
Asset forfeiture, yeah. It's like, oh, sir, we notice you have a large sum of money. Can you prove how you got it? And no, then we're just going to take it.
No kidding.
Yeah, you don't know about this?
No.
It's terrible. It's a real civil rights violation.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
They just take your money?
They just take your money. And then you have to prove that it's yours to get it back. And you obtained it through legal means, which we could have done, but it still would have been a pain in the ass.
God, all right. So you have money strapped to your body going through the casino.
So money belts and whatnot, yeah.
And and this is all just the card counting phase.
Yeah.
You gambled, again, gamble's the wrong word.
Yeah.
You invested in the gambling industry at another point.
I wouldn't say I invested in the game. I played poker for fun.
Okay.
Yeah. And it turns out that poker is a much more fun game than blackjack. Blackjack is deadly dull to play. And the only thing that made it fun was this, sort of fact that we were winning money, which was always fun.
Right.
And all the cloak and dagger stuff made it fun. Yeah.
And probably the perks, the free perks. What about,
and the trip, free trip to Vegas. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. What about when did you do poker?
10 years ago, something like that.
And what's the advantage of poker? I mean, the value. What's your value advantage there?
That's an interesting question. It is a lot harder to tell when you are a winning poker player than when you are a winning blackjack player.
When you're a winning blackjack player, you can tell because it's a shorthand and you're making money or you're not making money.
You can do some statistical analysis that proves that. Well, actually, this is an interesting question. And since this is the Reinvention podcast,
right,
we should probably talk about how this applies to life and such. With blackjack, it's really easy to prove that you have a statistical advantage if you know all the variables and you're like, great, if these cards come in this order and I play this strategy, then I will win.
Right.
Okay. I have this advantage, and if I get into the long run, I am guaranteed to be up with a high degree of confidence.
Okay.
The thing is, just because you know that doesn't mean you're necessarily a winning player, because there are always variables you're either aware of but don't know how to estimate.
Okay.
Like how far they cut into the shoe makes a big difference. And then how accurately you stick to your strategy makes an enormous difference. If your count is off, it could be disastrous for you.
Right.
Yeah. If you're betting big when your count is the wrong way around, if you get a sign flip, you're just throwing money away. You're betting more when you have a disadvantage. Also, if you are betting too timidly.
Okay.
And this turned out to be a thing with our team, is that people would get so nervous playing huge stakes that they wouldn't raise their bet enough.
Oh, okay.
And so you're bleeding money at low stakes, waiting for your opportunity. When your opportunity comes, you don't pounce on it aggressively enough because it's scary.
Okay.
And you don't get the big payoff that you were expecting to because of the big risk of failure that comes with it.
Right. So you have to. What you're saying is you can measure.
You can measure parts of it very, very accurately. You can measure statistical advantage for a betting strategy and a playing strategy. And what is harder to measure is how accurately you're keeping the count and how accurately you're sticking to the strategy you think you're playing.
And what you're saying is, for the reinvention aspect of this in life, that there's some aspects of being able to measure what you're doing with your life is also pretty hard.
Yeah, I would think specifically for starting a business, there are aspects of the business that you you have under control. It's like, I'm buying widgets for X and I'm selling them for X plus 10.
Right.
Therefore, I'm making a profit.
Right.
Okay. Well, no, not necessarily. Did you take taxes into account?
Right.
Did you take rent fluctuation into account? Did you take currency fluctuation into account? There's a million other variables that you sort of abstract away because you're thinking about the simple measurable thing that you understand perfectly, and you're forgetting about everything else.
We did that with textbooks, where we knew there were this many people had to have this textbook. We knew that we could print it for this much, and therefore we could price it at this much, and we could make this much money. And it was very clear. It was very clear. And all this would still be of value to the students. It would be cheaper than what they're getting. I know, it was perfect. What we didn't recognize is that there's a secondary book market, right? After students buy the new book, which is fine. Yeah. But then the next year, who knows how many people are going to buy it, because there's a whole other market about it. And I didn't realize that.
And that is the thing you discover when you're in the trenches.
Right.
And then your perfectly crafted plan is like, now I need to account for that. And these are the unknown unknowns, as they say.
Right.
What do I not know that I don't even know that I don't know? And how's it going to bite me in the ass?
And you say that poker has different variables.
It has wildly different variables. So A hand of blackjack is really straightforward. I have 2 cards and I'm going to get, a
Right.
statistical draw from the deck, and the dealer has 1 card showing.
And you're always aiming for a number. Poker has so many variables of what wins over what loses.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing about blackjack is all the cards, come face up at some point. I mean, with poker, you don't even know if you fold to a guy because you think he's representing aces very strongly and you think he has aces and you fold to him. You don't know that he actually had aces.
Oh.
You may have been bluffed. So
that's variables that you will never get then.
Yeah. And then you can do a thing where you track this guy's bluff percentage because sometimes he shows a hand, or sometimes someone calls him on his bluff and you go, that guy bluffs a lot. You can start to build a picture of some people, but it's a very, very slow process, and it's a very inexact process.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's very easy in poker, like much of life, I think. It's very easy in poker and to delude yourself into thinking you're a massive statistical favorite because you're such a good poker player when you're on a lucky streak.
Oh, yeah.
So you have a good run at poker and you go, wow, I'm the greatest poker player that ever lived. And then you hit a downturn and you're like, oh my God, why is nothing happening for me anymore?
Right, and you're reevaluating everything.
Yeah.
I'm really good when they play the TV poker. When they show the cards and they have the percentage.
Yeah.
If that was what poker playing was, I would be so good at that. So do you know, like when you're holding the cards, do you when the TV is showing it, it shows the percentage and the commentators talk about the betting percentage. Well, he's got a this is a high probability hit. I mean, they do all. Do you have those tables in your head?
I don't. I know some of those percentages, but not all of them. There's the really easy formula to calculate your outs. This is a great example. If say you're on a flush draw, and so there are 9 cards that will make your flush, and you have you've just seen the flop. There are 2 more cards coming. Then there's a formula that tells you what your percentage is of hitting that flush and making it, and you can base your decision on that. But this is not perfectly accurate because you're thinking my flush is going to beat that other guy's hand. So if my flush comes in, I'm going to win. But if the board pairs and that guy's sitting on trips, now he's got a full house, and you make your flush and you go all in and you lose anyway because you don't have the best hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why did you get into this? It seems so. Do you know what your advantage was?
No, I have no idea.
But so when you analyze whether you were a good poker player, were you a good poker player?
I am a winning poker player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Winning at what level?
I play tournament poker. So there's cash poker and there's tournament poker. Cash poker is hand by hand. And I would say a lot of serious poker players who are in it for the money play cash poker because there's less variance at cash poker. If you know you have positive EV, then you can extract that EV over time pretty easily.
Okay.
Tournament poker is a winner take all situation. They paid the top 10% of players, but there's a 90% chance that you're not going to make money.
But it's like the Highlanders, the last man standing gets all the power.
Yeah.
And you played tournament poker?
I played tournament poker.
Why?
And I played because, and this is key, it is more like a game and less like a business, and therefore more fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're not just grinding out.
Yeah.
Okay. But you were winning.
Yeah. I when I did my MFA in creative writing, I would fly through Vegas because I don't like to fly for 10 hours without a stop. So I would stop in Vegas for 2 days, play poker, and then continue on. It also helps with the time change. And I'm won enough playing poker to pay for grad school. In fact, I think to this date, I have made more money as a poker player
than you have as a writer.
As a writer, yes.
I'm just the rest of the other people in your creative writing class.
Yeah.
Do they know that you're supporting yourself playing poker?
I'm not. I'm just.
Yeah, but
I told them. I taught them how to play. Taught them how to count cards. First time we all did laundry together at Stone Coast, and it's like, let's play a board game. It's like, hey, let me teach you guys how to count cards. Like,
did they know that you're a multimillionaire Microsoft guy?
I don't know if I told that story or not.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering what they thought of you. Like they're like, there's this guy. He's a writer. He's my writing class. He flies. He stops by Vegas. He lives in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Hawaii. He comes here to do his creative writing. He stops by Vegas to play cards on the way home. I'm just wondering what the hell they thought of you.
No idea.
No offense, but you're much more interesting than you look.
Okay. I'll try not to be offended at that.
Just the story. I mean, on paper, you're just you're probably one of the more fascinating people anyone would ever meet. It's just got to be weird for somebody from the outside. Like, wait, he's doing what? He's from where?
Yeah. Well, I don't, Yeah, people I get to know and I tell them these stories and that's fun, but this is all stuff from the past. So I don't,
So you don't think about it.
I go to rehearsal every night and we're just like, let's focus on what we're doing here tonight. Yeah. We do that.
Yeah, but the people in your creative writing, you put yourself through your creative writing MFA by stopping by Vegas on your way back from Hawaii and playing cards. And
and you say put yourself through it, but really, I was going to do that anyway, and I was going to play poker anyway, and it's a fun coincidence that I made enough playing poker to pay for grad school.
That's really cool.
But it has nothing to do with anything.
That's fun.
But it's fun to say it that way.
So tell me, like, what's a memorable hand of tournament hand? I guess you don't need a bimbo.
Yeah, no, you can't. In fact, you can't have anyone. It's one player per hand, so no one can even sit and watch you play. They have to be outside the rail.
And you don't have to pretend to be anyone you're not.
You don't. You can be as cold and calculating as you want. You can sit there and just say, I'm calculating your percentages right now, man.
Right. So they say, all the movies about poker, they say you play the opponent, not the cards. Is that all true? Are you looking at the other person, or is that not
true? A lot of that is true. But it's not completely true. In a movie, they have to make it all about the player and not about the cards, because people who watch movies don't know enough about poker to appreciate the card play.
I do not.
Yeah. But there is some card play here, and people who try to make it all about the other player, you see them blow up in spectacular fashion on a regular basis.
Right, because they're just assuming the other person is going to bluff.
Yeah, this is the thing that's happened in high stakes poker lately. People get into 7-bet shoving matches with air. They're just like, I've got a jack 7 off, but I don't think you have anything, so I'm going to raise you. And they go, well, I've got a 6-4 suited, and it's garbage, but I don't think you have anything, so I'm going to re-raise you, and we're just going to play this game of chicken back and forth to see who gives up first.
And then whoever's cards happen to do it.
Or whoever finally caves and says, you're right, I've only got a 6-4, I can't call that bet.
Now, in tournament poker, if you have a large stack, you can lean on the other person. You can
be a big stack bully. Yeah.
Right. Is that true of cash poker as well? Or you can just always re-up?
You can always re-up. So it's not quite as painful in cash to get felted, because you can just pull more money out of your pocket.
Felted?
Yeah. Down to the felt. No chips left.
To get felted.
Yeah. But in a tournament, you lose all your chips, you're gone, you're out.
Right.
Yeah, you have to wait till tomorrow to play another tournament or get into a cash game or something.
But cash game, if you go down to the felt, you can just buy back in.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a bad thing, because if you're losing, maybe that's not the best strategy.
Well, this is where it really makes a difference to know whether you're a winning player or not, and know whether you're in an advantageous situation or not. If you know you have an advantage, if you know that, because this can happen, you can get all your money in a positive expected value. It's like, I'm 80% to win here.
And then the 20% comes.
The 20% comes. Then you want to be able to recognize that and say, this is still to my advantage. I want to stay here and I want to keep playing. So pull more money out of your pocket. You can also get tilted and go, I was chasing a long shot draw. I had a 40% chance to win. I put all my money in and I lost. That was dumb. Maybe I should walk away.
Right. Isn't tilted when you get like, fuck it, I'm going to go back in harder?
Yeah.
And then that's a bad idea, because it's
a bad idea.
So
don't go on tilt.
So you say poker is more fun than blackjack.
It is.
Why?
Blackjack is an incredibly mechanical game to play.
Okay.
You don't have a lot of decision making. You have no decision making flexibility. The cards come out and you say, oh, my true count is +3, and it says that in this situation I should split. My true count is so high I should split 10s. Therefore, I'm going to do it. And then, oh, look, I have a double opportunity. I should do that. You do what the tables say. My true count is this, and so I bet this percentage of my unit. Bam, it goes out there. No flexibility. A robot could do it.
Right.
It would be better if a robot did it, because a robot,
it doesn't have all those variables. Right.
Would be playing accurately and honestly. Yeah.
Right. But in poker,
there are so many variables and so many things you don't know that you have to make a lot of decisions. And you're saying, okay, well, I think my opening range beats this guy's opening range, but he's kind of squirrely. He's tapping his feet. Maybe he's got happy feet, and that's to tell you have a good hand. So maybe I should just let this one go. Or you just look, and sometimes you just see a look in someone's eye. They're just kind of like, it's like, you don't have anything.
So are you good at reading body language?
I'm terrible at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any like specific things that you're supposed to look for?
Usually people play the opposite of what they feel. Okay. So if they are weak, they will present strength. And if they are strong, they will present weak.
Okay.
And so if you spot someone who's a really terrible actor, then it's easy to pick up,
Right.
They're just like, they slam their chips in with authority.
You're like,
they do this,
he's
they hold their hands, they stare you down. But then there are people who are good actors, and they will do that when they're strong.
Okay.
You'll just go, oh, I was confused.
Oh. Are there any other gambling? So you don't call it gambling?
No. Advantage play.
Advantage
preferred term for blackjack, for sure. Yeah.
And is that the term for poker?
For poker, I don't know. We just say poker player.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to working at Microsoft, being a producer, director, writer, all these things, you've also been a professional advantage player of cards.
Actually, I wrote professional gambler on my taxes for a couple of years.
Did you really?
I did, because if you claim that you're a professional gambler, you can deduct your gambling expenses against your gambling winnings.
Oh.
If you are not a professional gambler, you can only deduct your gambling losses against your gambling winnings. You can't deduct other income.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they didn't question this?
I never got audited. And the IRS will push on that quite hard. But if you're a professional gambler, it's worth it because, you might have a winning year one year and a losing year the next year.
So you were legitimately a professional gambler.
Oh,
you claimed it on your tax.
I claimed it on my taxes, and there were a couple of years where I made more playing blackjack than I did at my job as a software engineer. Yeah.
All right. So here's the question then.
Yeah.
If somebody's listening to this and saying,
I should get into that.
No, you shouldn't do this. This is
Don't do it.
Is this an awful idea or is this a good idea?
It depends. It depends on your circumstances. For me, I could afford to do it as a hobby, and it was fun, and I had a great time, and got a lot of great stories, and had some great experiences. So absolutely, I should have done it, even if I lost money.
Right.
But no, most people shouldn't do it to make money, but some people have done it and been very successful making money.
Right.
But this is one of those things where it's really easy to delude yourself into thinking you are a winning player when in fact you are not.
How do you get into it? Let's say that by the way, I have no natural card playing ability, none.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. If I wanted to learn how to play poker, how would I go about actually starting?
Just starting, I would pick up a book, read the book. The best way to do it, the people who are very, very serious, they play a lot of poker, they watch a lot of poker, and they discuss poker on the forums, like 2+2 poker forums. You go there and you have a hand, and you say, I had this hand, and these are all the variables, and this is how I played it. Was that right or was that wrong?
Okay.
And people will help you analyze it. They'll say, that was
you can
absolutely
also
wrong.
You can play online.
You can play online.
Is it the same?
It's not legal anymore in the United States.
Oh, it's not?
No. Yeah. You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Since Black Friday, because a lot of people were making money during the poker boom after Chris Moneymaker won the World Series in 2003.
Okay.
Poker exploded in the United States.
Right.
And a lot of people were playing online poker, and a lot of professional poker players were playing online because you could play way more hands per hour online than you could in real life.
Okay.
There were guys who were playing like 20 tables simultaneously. So, I mean, that's 20 times the win rate, obviously.
Right.
If you're an advantage player. Yeah.
But they cut it all out.
And then the U.S. government said, hey, no, this is illegal gambling, and anyone who does this will be prosecuted, and anyone who funds one of these companies will be prosecuted, and any credit card companies who let money go into one of these companies will be prosecuted, and boom, it just shut down overnight.
Jeez, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, some people moved to Europe or Costa Rica or wherever to continue their careers.
But I could play online, not for gambling. Games.
You cannot learn anything doing that.
Okay, that was my question.
No. Because as soon as there's no stakes, people behave irrationally.
Okay.
People behave irrationally even when there is money at stake, and that's great.
Right.
Because then you can take their money away from them. Some people just throw money at you because like cash game players that get into a tournament, you can see them start to get twitchy, and it's like they're gonna spew their chips away in the next couple of hands. So it's gonna be me. I'm gonna play every hand I can against this guy.
Just because they're a born loser.
Because he's looking to either double up or go home.
Okay.
So you wait for a shot, and it's like you can throw your chips at me, I'll take them, and then they go off and play cash game.
Thanks for this.
Yeah.
I have one other thing I wanna that I forgot to ask you about before. There's no easy segue for this. So professional gambler.
Yeah.
You're also a producer and director for the Hawaii Shakespeare Festival.
Correct.
And a lot of Hawaii Shakespeare is all female.
Yes.
Right. So this is a completely new topic.
Yes.
So one, how did that start? And two, what are the advantages of that?
All right. So that started in our very first year, actually. We were, this is R. Kevin Garcia Doyle, Harry Wong, and myself started the Shakespeare Festival. And we wanted to us, having a festival meant having 3 plays pretty much simultaneously.
Which means you need a lot of actors.
You need a lot of actors. You need 50, 60 actors. And you can't share actors between shows if they're all running at the same time. So we had to field 3 very large casts at once. And you've looked at Shakespeare's plays and you go, okay, let's tally up all the men's roles.
And
out of 50 or 60, it's 90% of them.
Right.
And then there's like 5 female roles.
Right.
So, and just for whatever reason in community theater, more women audition than men as a general rule. So that means we're looking at casting literally every man who walks through the door and the top 5 women.
In large roles.
Yeah. And the top 5 women.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, well, the economics of this are just bonkers. That's just wrong. We shouldn't do that. We should find a way to address that. So my idea was to do my show that year as an all-woman production. So I'm like, I'm going to cast every role as a woman. And that's going to be, Two Gentlemen of Verona. That's going to be 15 roles for women, bang, right there. Plus the roles for women in the other two plays. And plus, I think they also did, Harry and R also did a little bit of cross casting.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that balanced it out. So we had about 50-50.
Did your audience, did they blink at that? Or
a lot of people blinked at that in various directions. So a lot of people were just like, woo, female empowerment.
Right.
This is great. We're taking back Shakespeare. It used to be all male cast, and now we're doing an all female cast. So, screw you, Shakespeare. Future is female. So there were those sort of people. And then there were people who were just like, well,
not that I have anything against women, but.
Yes.
Right.
Or it's remarkable how well these women do at pretending to be men.
Oh, wow. What were the written reviews like?
They were kind of all over the place. There was a lot of that sort of thing. There was a lot of
commenting on the gender cast.
Yeah. And for the first time out, I expected it, and it was, it was fine. And then, 20 years later, it's kind of like, let's get past that, guys.
Okay.
Especially that criticism of, not just like, hey, this person is playing this role and they're playing it well or not so well, but they're playing it well and they're credible as a man.
Right.
No, don't care.
Don't care.
Are they credible as that character? That's what I care about. And so that's the kind of the thing that largely our audience over the past 20 years has sort of come around to the idea that, yes,
it's fine.
Women can be credible playing these roles. It doesn't matter that they are women. Let's just move past that.
Right. Well, also, in Hawaii, you talk about colorblind casting and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of white dudes playing, playing the roles anyway.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a colorful cast no matter what. It doesn't seem like a huge leap for the audience to go like,
and yet it is.
Huh.
It's surprising. You could have I don't know what race you could pick in Hawaii where you could do an all whatever cast, all Chinese cast for something. I guess you could pull that off, or an all Japanese cast. And I don't think anyone would say this person isn't credible as Hamlet because he's Japanese, right? No, that wouldn't enter into anyone's mind.
No, and yet the gender does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a bigger sticking point for most people.
Over time, you're saying your audience is adjusted to it.
Yeah.
What about you? This changed your understanding of Shakespeare or of acting.
So this is where I get to admit to one of my biases, and I can admit to it because it's old and I've moved past it.
This is the disclaimer up front.
When I started directing, I thought that generally there were more good men actors around than women actors.
Okay.
And generally men were going to be at the top of the profession and women were not.
Is that in part because you were classically trained and that's just sort of, you have more roles for men and therefore your what you think are good actors?
It was at the time an unexamined bias.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what my reasons were for it, but I think it was just sort of based on my experience. You look around the department and you say, wow, that guy was great in that thing.
Right.
He played Hamlet and he killed it.
Right.
But you never saw a woman playing Hamlet, and it just kind of makes this unconscious association in your mind that women can't play Hamlet.
Right.
And over the course of 20 years, I've cast women as Richard III, for instance, Stephanie Keiko Kong.
Mm-hmm. I saw that. She was great.
She was amazing.
She was really amazing.
She was amazing, yeah. And what you start to realize is that I was having no trouble finding talented women to play these roles. No matter what role I had, it was not a challenge to find a very talented woman to play it. So there were just as many talented women out there as there were talented men. I just hadn't seen them before because we weren't offering those roles.
Right.
The other thing is that over time, there were a couple actors I got to work with again and again and again, and they got very good playing these much better roles. They had more experience playing Shakespeare. You play a role like Richard III, that teaches you way more about playing Shakespeare than playing, Kate in Henry V.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Yeah, you could be the most talented woman in your department or your community, and if you're doing traditional casting for Henry V, you're going to get Kate.
Right.
And that's one scene.
Right.
Right. And then how are you going to develop as an actor?
Right.
So
right.
if you get an opportunity to play Henry, bam, now you're talking.
So over time, you have come to realize that women are not bad or not.
My bias was, I want to be specific about this. My bias was that there was a skewed distribution of talent between men and women. That was just wrong. And so I'm happy to be past that.
When we first started, before the cameras were rolling, you said you actually think it may be the other way around now.
It absolutely is, at least in this community. And it could be a number of factors. But when we put out a casting call for an all-woman play, it used to be we get, out of 100 actors, we'd get 45 guys and 55 women. And that's just enough when you're doing traditional casting to be really, unfortunate. And now we put out a thing for an all-women show, we get 20 guys and 80 women. and it's really hard to cast the male roles.
So you found, at least here in Hawaii, that there are more talented, experienced women actors than there are talented, experienced male actors. Statistically.
I wouldn't say that. I haven't done a statistical analysis. What I would say is that when I cast a challenging project, when I do a really, really challenging project, like my Invented Language Midsummers or the Original Staging Practices Rep, I like to do that. I do an alternate, traditional casting with an all-woman casting. And I like to save those harder projects for the all-woman years because I've developed a group of actors I can really count on that are very, very strong. And I feel like I'll have an easier time casting those roles in the all-woman years than in the mixed years.
You're very enlightened for a professional gambler. Is there anything else we can talk about with the all-female Shakespeare? Have I missed anything in particular? Because that's really cool.
I don't think so.
Do people on the mainland, what do they think of it?
People are doing this on the mainland too now.
Okay.
In fact, people were doing it way back when. That's how I first came up with the idea. Is I had read about in the New York Times an all-woman production of Lear. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. So that idea was already floating around in my head. It made it available to me to try it for two gentlemen. There's a woman, Lisa Volpe, who runs an all-woman Shakespeare company.
Okay. There's a bunch of all-women fight groups, like stage combat fight groups in Chicago, and I think a couple in New York.
Well, fighting's another great area, which is, fighting currently is dominated by men.
Right.
But increasingly over the years, you've probably seen this, more and more women are coming into fight groups.
Right.
Here's a fun story. So for the Shakespeare Festival, I was planning to do an all-woman Shakespeare play that had a lot of fighting in it. And I wanted to sort of spur interest in it. And so I offered a free stage combat workshop at a local community college because I wanted to get a bunch of people excited about fighting and therefore excited about auditioning for this play. And I hoped there would be roughly even distribution between men and women. And unbeknownst to me, the professor put this up and he announced it to his class and said, hey, there's going to be this free workshop, but it's for men only.
Oh, wow.
And a woman I'd been talking to, and I specifically told her to take this workshop, came to me and complained and said, why can't I take this workshop? And I'm like, of course you can. And I had to go and tell him. And he said, oh, I just assumed you only wanted men because there are no female fighting parts in Shakespeare. Yeah. So he had made that assumption on his own. And I had to say, no, let anyone in who wants to take the workshop.
That is cool. Yeah. And then lots of people showed up and took it.
Lots of people showed up.
Yeah, there's lots of fighting groups with women.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a whole other episode.
Yeah, it's a whole other episode.
That's a whole episode, but it was fun. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. We are out talking with Tony, who is much more interesting than he looks.
A biased professional gambler.
That's
your takeaway.
Previously biased professional gambler.
Previously biased advantage player.
Previously biased. And we're done. Visit reinventionpodcast.com for transcripts and other free resources.